What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/PettyRevenge. Alright, this story's called, I Left My Cheating Ex on the Top of a Mountain. I've been on Reddit for a while now, but have never had anything noteworthy to post, so I'm excited about this despite it being a crappy time in my life. Also, I'm on my phone, so sorry if it's getting messed up. This happened a few hours ago, and I still have a bunch of adrenaline. So I, female 20, have been dating this guy, male 22, for a little over a year now, and it's been nice even though we have our differences. I love to work out. I run up and down 14ers in my free time, and he's always been sorta lazy and out of shape, but is still easy on the eyes, so it's never been an issue. Recently though, my girlfriend was at a bar with some of our mutual friends and coincidentally, and luckily, saw him out with the boys as he said he would be. But his ex was there with him along with some other girls. She figured they just ran into each other. He's never done anything suspicious before, but I guess I've been a bit too trusting. She said she just kinda looked over there occasionally, but decided to text me when they were a little too close. I called him cause what the hell? And he said he'd just be with the boys, and he said he'd be home when he got home and hung up. At this point, I realized that I hadn't been paying much attention to his behavior. Not him, we literally lived together. Being preoccupied with college and work and everything that I brushed off fell into place, and I realized he was most definitely hooking up with his ex. He always stayed out late, would ignore my texts and calls for hours, hung out with his friends but never invited me, and has always been ridiculously protective of his phone, saying he wants to live his own life and it's private, which I should have called him out on, but I'm way too naive, I guess. This was my first real relationship. Anyway, he got home way late, like 3 a.m. I hadn't heard anything from my friend or him, but had been staying up plotting my revenge because a breakup over this type of thing isn't enough. I demanded that he give me his phone, and when he refused, I straight up said, then pack your crap and leave. He's not in the contract, just been staying with me and my roommate and giving me rent since Brovid started. I guess he didn't realize I would actually say something like that. I've always been super gushy over him and basically tend to his every need. Clearly, I would never be the one to break up. He gave me his phone and I didn't know where to start, but eventually found a messaging app I've never heard of. And sure enough, when I opened it, the first name to pop up was his ex. Turns out, they met almost every weekend for drinks or a restaurant, and most definitely hooked up afterwards, as well as sent pics to each other. I was pissed, but already had some petty revenge planned. He said the classic crap like, I could be better, I never meant to hurt you, I'm so sorry, you've been nothing but good to me, and the infamous, I can change. I had been waiting for that, so I said, prove it. Come on my hike with me tomorrow. Show me that you can change your ways and do something I like for once. I'm fairly manipulative. Oops. I've been trying to hit a 14er, a 14,000 plus foot mountain for those who don't live in Colorado, a weekend since the season started, and have been fairly successful, only missing 1 week. I had been planning to finally do Long's Peak, but he would definitely not have made it to the top, so we did an easier one instead. Hiking up, he was a baby, and we stopped about every 30 minutes for him, making it a very boring 8-hour trip to the top. He was definitely trying to be nicer and sweeter than he has been, but it was kind of just pathetic at that point. I already knew I'd never take back a cheater. When we got to the top, he sat down immediately and drank the rest of the water, despite me warning him he definitely needed for the hike down. I took some obligatory pictures since this was still one I'd never done before, then gave him a kiss because goddamn those lips still, and said, we're officially over. Then turned to start my jog down. He was exhausted and couldn't keep up for long once we hit the trail again. But he was saying a bunch of stuff that I mostly tuned out, but I heard him say, slow down, you're just gonna have to wait in the car, woman. To which I said, just call a friend, or better yet, your ex. I'm writing this in the car right now, and since I don't have the reception Hopefully it'll reach Reddit while I go home. It was a pretty long hike, so I doubt he'll be home for a while. He does have reception, and there's a water fountain at the trail ahead. I made sure I'm not too much of a butthole. I don't know how things will turn out when he comes to get his stuff and where he'll go after, but I might update this if anything interesting happens. I'm really happy despite everything. I commented an update, but people said just edit it into the post, so here. Update! I wasn't going to do this for a while until all of his stuff is moved out, but I would love to address all of the comments concerned on his health and the whole kicking him out situation. People will be probably disappointed with this as it's not that interesting and I didn't add to the revenge at all, but this is apparently necessary. To all the people posting hiking horror stories and calling me psychotic, a little background on my ex. He grew up in Canada with an extremely outdoorsy family who loves to camp, taught him basic survival, and forced him on hikes as a kid. We have both camped together and snowboarded together. I ensured his pack would be enough should he get lost. He had a survival beacon that I used for backcountry skiing, paracord, a knife, compass, first aid kit, emergency blanket, whistle, bear spray, flashlight, ferro rod, like 3 or 4 Cliff Bars left, proper layered clothing, and probably other stuff I'm forgetting that I shoved in there. He is no dumbass to the wilderness and can follow a trail that was, extremely at least to me, heavily trafficked yesterday. He got dropped off by his friend and sure enough did not feel like moving all his crap out, which was fine. It was a long day. He slept on the couch and I got everything out of my room last night. I was gonna help out downstairs with getting all the little things of his since he's pretty moved in, but his ex showed up to help him pack, so now I'm just in my room writing this. We talked a little bit last night because I was curious about, well, everything. He was extremely pissed, but I think too tired to take it out. Yelling, not physical. He said he stayed a ways behind a large group and kept their pace till he got to tree line, then lost him. He thinks it took him about 5 hours to get down, but he's terrible at time estimates, so it could have been shorter or longer. For those concerned about him having daylight left, people start 14ers way early in the morning, if they're not running up them, and we particularly started around 4:30 a.m., summited around 12:15, and had plenty of time to get out before nightfall. Additionally, I'm not sure when it posted because it was my first and only post, and I didn't get any notification thing that it ever went up while I was driving or when I was home. I woke up to all these comments. He's moving in with his ex and mentioned nothing about me illegally kicking him out, which I doubt he is concerned about. Yeah, he gets mail here, but I don't think he would consider he has a legal case, if he even does. All in all, things went well, and I'll never forget the look on his face at the summit. Mount Elbert, for those asking. Damn, that was some freaking revenge. Petty, I would say closer to pro. Maybe regular. But that just goes to show, don't cheat on a girlfriend that is that badass. Alright, this story's called Boot Tag and Toe. This was response to a PettyRevenge post, and a few people asked me to post it in its own, well, except for one guy. My elderly mother, who has never held a driver's license or owned a car, moved to Colorado, where most unit owners had indoor garages under their units, except my mom's, who had 2 outdoor stalls. They had a condo board, and the president of that board was a serious douchebag. Knowing my mom didn't have any cars, he always parked there and used the other stall as his personal visitor parking. It was convenient for him as the stalls were close to his side door that was close to his corner unit. I come from a very large family of 9, and myself, or one of my brothers or sisters, visited every day, and we often had nowhere to park. She had 12 siblings, and they all visited frequently too, and both stalls were always occupied with his cars. Eventually, we approached the douchebag and asked him to stop parking there as we need both stalls. He told us we should use visitor parking so he wasn't inconvenienced. First, we put up a no parking sign. I bought it online from a sign printing company so it looked just like a city sign. sign. It wasn't hand printed on cardboard. Then we sent him a registered letter telling him we would boot and tow any vehicle we found in our stall. I set up a motion-activated webcam pointed at the stalls. It was a little too far away, so I got a lot of false positives, but it would alert my phone if someone parked there. I knew the douchebag drove a Cavalier, and his visitors drive either a white car, a red pickup, or a silver sedan. In my city, you can't tow anyone until the police have ticketed it. Tow companies won't even hook up unless it is tagged. So I would get alerts from my webcam, phone my mom to confirm she didn't have company, then phone the cops to get them tagged. They would often take 3 or more hours, but I would get another alert when they were there. When I got the second alert and saw the cop car sitting there, I immediately called my buddy's tow company and drove to my mom's. When I got there 20 minutes later, a tow truck had already picked the truck up and was leaving. He said the second tow truck was 15 minutes away, so I went through with my boot plans. I had a long length of very heavy chain, probably 30 feet, that I used to lock up my motorcycle with when I lived in a shady part of town. That and a big fat padlock with a registered keyway. I chained the car through the back tire rim to a nearby light pole, then went and sat in my truck. The second tow truck and visitor looking for his red truck arrived at the same time. The visitor ran back to get the douchebag and the tow truck hooked up. Douchebag came back and demanded the tow operator to drop his car. No problem. Under $25, please. Douchebag throws a wobbler, screaming at me that he is going to sue me and evict my mom, etc. He finally paid the tow operator and his car was released, but I refused to unchain his car. He threatened to call the cops. I admittedly was probably in the wrong, but I called his bluff and said go ahead. He screamed and yelled and threatened me for a good 15 minutes until he was finally all ranted out. After that, we had a calm conversation about all the visitors my mother had, the majority of them also elderly, and that the stalls belonged to us. He eventually agreed to stop parking there and, to his credit, kept his word. His visitors were slower to come into compliance and had to be towed once each, including a second time for red pickup, but they got the message. After they stopped parking there, I kinda missed all the confrontations. Also, my buddy was giving me a bottle of whiskey for every tow job I sent to him. That's funny. That's a really cool story. Very large families. That's baffling to me. I know it was definitely a lot more common like a century ago to have a dozen or more children, because like the survival rate of your kids was pretty low compared to now, at least. But anyway, glad it worked out in the end, and glad that he ended up being a cool dude about it in the end. Also, they had more kids for the extra hands too, I'm pretty sure, right? Depending on where you lived. Alright, this story's called, You Wanna Be Loud? I'll Get Louder. I had this one neighbor when I was in Arizona. She and her husband lived above us and would bang on the walls, play loud music, and yell and scream at each other at all hours of the day and night. I filed a complaint with our courtesy patrol one night after 3 months of this, to absolutely no avail. The office did take action and courtesy patrol did too, but they refused to change. So I went back to the office with a plan. I had a small but powerful Bluetooth speaker at my disposal, and I warned the office what I was going to do. And believe it or not, they said this was fine so long as I didn't leave it on for hours on end. These people in the office were awesome in more ways than one. Now, important side note. Our neighbors were super religious, so the next time they started in with loud noises, I took my speaker, duct taped it to the bottom of her balcony, and put on some Slayer at max volume while I'm on my patio smoking. I barely hear her yelling over it at me and ignore her. Then there's a knock at the door that I happen to hear because I was grabbing a beer. Time to watch the world burn. I open the door and start with a friendly, "Hello, what can I do for you?" She starts going on about my music and how loud it is, to which I say, "Oh, is it bothering you? I can change it if you like." And I did. I went and borrowed an even louder louder speaker from my other neighbor and good friend. We'll call him Pete. So I turned that one up to max and put on some other, more hardcore band with chugging guitars and endless screaming, to which I get another knock on my door. Same lady, still on a rant, to which I responded by pausing my music so that she could hear me very quickly. If my noise in broad daylight on a weekend is bothering you, how do you think I feel about your banging on the walls and yelling at your boyfriend at 3 a.m. on a work night? Or your loud music when I'm trying to go to sleep? Keep it down and we won't have this problem anymore. And I slammed the door in her face. I only dealt with it 2 more times. The last time she had company over. She never got loud again. I never saw the same people enter her apartment. Edit 2. Holy moly. I don't want to sound like I just posted this for attention, but I just want to say thanks to everyone who commented. I may not have responded to all of you, but I read through all of them. Thanks for the upvotes, comments, and awards, y'all. Hopefully, I was able to put some smiles on some faces today. Being completely honest, I've had a crappy day, but all of you kind strangers have put a smile on my face today, too. So again, thank you and rock on! Noisy upstairs neighbors. So I talk about my neighbors sometimes, my upstairs neighbors, but I was staying over at someone's house yesterday, or 2 days ago. I don't even remember. Holy crap, my time stuff is bad in my brain. Anyway, so we didn't end up going to bed until like 3, 4 in the morning. And there was so much noise. It's honestly ridiculous. Like constant running like downstairs, even though there was no stairs in these buildings. And it was like banging, like so much noise. It was honestly, it's the kind of thing you would see in this stupid ass cheesy sitcom, you know, that would exaggerate it. It was no joke crazy. And then in the morning, it was like stuff being broken outside. It was just nuts. Did have good crepes in the morning though. That was a fun time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.